Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that goes beyond what the media would have us think is self-care. So I think the media would have us spending thousands of dollars every month if we were to practice that kind of self-care. But the kind of self-care that I'm really interested in and that truly makes a permanent transformation is what I call courageous self-care. So it's the stuff on the inside, and there's nothing wrong with bubble baths and chocolate and wine and massages and spa treatments. Nothing wrong with that at all. However, if that is the only approach you're taking to self-care, you're missing out, and those are really just temporary solutions. So what I like to do is go deep, go in for the nitty-gritty, and come out on the other side an even better version of who you're destined to be. That is what great self-care can do. Often for this kind of self-care, we need a guide. We don't know what we don't know. And so I love to show up and be that guide for you. And I also love to get other people who align with self-care. So today I have with me Ana Marinho. Ana, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Yes, a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you love to do these days, Ana.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say I love the idea of the self-care be beyond the bubble bath and the chocolate. I think it's so important for, especially us as women. We kind of like get this idea, if I don't go to the spa, then I'm not getting self-care. Then I love what you're saying. And as far as what I do, I'm a physical therapist. I am an intuitive healer, and I am a transformational coach. They kind of goes back a lot of what you teach as well as far as courageous, but I'm a little bit more directed to the health and self-care as far as self-healing. The foundation of my work, it's finding that inner healer that we already have. And then when we treat the inner healer, that's pure self-care right there as well.
So I'm curious, Ana, that sounds fascinating. Have you always been able to practice this self-healing, or is it something you discovered later on as part of your journey?
I think it's been always expanding. I think I born as a very sensitive being, and I had to take care of myself to survive in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times that became kind of isolating myself. Then I learned tools to be able to survive, be able to go back in public and be in a crowd and be in places and starting being able to do my service as well. They took some time for me to learn those tools. And I feel like when I master the self-care and the next year comes along and I'm like, oh, I can do even more.
Yes.
There's always room for more.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You would think that there would be a finite number of things that you could do, but you're right. There's always more. There's always more discoveries and different ways of approaching even the same topic, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Yes, yeah. For sure.
So Ana, I love to get guests on the show to share their current favorite self-care practice, and I love to do that because self-care there are, like we were saying, there's so many different things you can do for it. And it's also very individual. And even some clients I've worked with, we have worked through what they thought was not actually self-care, but when they saw it from a different lens, they realized, oh, that is self-care. So I love to get people to share it, to give our listeners various ideas. And you might recognize something that you've already been doing and you can say, oh, that's self-care, fantastic. Or you might get an idea and say, ooh, I've never tried that. That sounds interesting. I'd love to pursue it. So let's hear what you love to do for self-care.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as far as always being open to learn and change. I think we always change as we grow, then allow ourselves to change the self-care practice as we expand and grow in our life as well is very important.
Yes.
For me, one of my favorites, I have many different ways of doing self-care, and it depends on my mood and my energy, depending on what I need that day. But one day I think is one of my favorites is the clearing in the shower. And bring me something that I have to do every day, or I like to do every day.
Yes.
I love take a shower. I love the feeling of the water running and just kind of getting that relaxation feeling. Then what I incorporate with that was almost like a chakra clearing and detox, just clearing anything that doesn't serve me anymore. I just visualize, set the intention for the water to do that service. And for me, the water connects with Mother Earth. Then it's almost like getting the purity as can get directly from the source of the water from her, and just letting that run through me. And I like to incorporate self-care in things we do every day, like
Yes.
you shower, or sometimes I do the same thing when I'm washing my hands, especially if I'm working between clients, and I just go wash my hands, and that's my 5 seconds, 30 seconds, just kind of just clear everything out and be able to reset. And that way, for me, it feels like I can do that multiple times a day instead of having to sit down and have that 30 minutes, because sometimes we have time, sometimes we don't. But incorporate for me those little things that we can do during the day, as well as the meditation that we would like to do. For me, it feels like it make a big difference.
I love what you're saying here, Anna. And I have a couple of comments to make. So the first one is that I love that you're taking everyday practices that you enjoy doing or that you need to do and setting an intention. And that is a huge difference between just a regular shower where you might start ruminating and thinking about, oh, I need to do this next and miss out on the actual experience. If you just take a moment to take a breath beforehand, set an intention, and then use that time to visualize and connect with Mother Earth and yourself and with spirit, it has a completely different outcome, right?
Totally different. Totally different. Yeah, the sensation that afterwards, it's totally different than just going to take a shower.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful. We can pause a multitude of times during the day without taking any extra time. And that's one of people's main excuses or reasons or explanations for why they don't take time for self-care is they don't have time, but everyone has time everyone makes time to shower and everyone makes time to wash their hands, and everyone makes time to go into the car even. So why not pause, take a breath, set an intention for your drive? These are very simple strategies that are totally workable into your day. And I think just the hard thing is remembering to do it. And that's where Post-it notes come in very handy. As you're developing a new skill, you could just put a Post-it note on your shower or by your faucet or when you get into the car on your visor, and remind yourself to just take even one breath, set some sort of intention for the next little bit, and notice what happens afterwards.
For sure.
When did you start this practice in the shower of doing a clearing?
That's been a couple of years now. And that is like so natural. I think I was doing some sort of that before.
Yeah.
The shower always symbolized for me to just reset.
Yes.
I think a couple of years ago, I kind of like set the specific intention to just close my eyes for a couple seconds, let the water run, and feel that actually happening.
Yes. Yeah, we can be so much in our heads that we can take an entire shower and not notice how amazing it feels. And then the other thing that I love that you said was something as simple as washing your hands can be a moment to reconnect. And you're right, it doesn't have to take long. Self-care can be as simple as one breath. That's it. And as long as you're doing it consciously and mindfully during the day several times, you are going to feel so much more filled up at the end of the day rather than depleted if you're just going through the motions.
For sure. Yeah.
Love it.
And that's one of the base of my philosophy for every single area that I work, because I reach the body, the mind, and the spirit when I'm working with the clients. And I always go back to what are we doing for ourselves? Mm-hmm. I like to describe myself as an active healer instead of a passive healer.
Yes.
And none of my clients lie down the table and wait for me to clear them or transform them. It's a teamwork.
Yes.
And to be able to be a teamwork, we have to have the responsibility to create things during our daily life to keep ourselves responsible, to keep our chakras clear, to keep ourselves grounded. And those simple things, like you said, we can just incorporate through the day. Those are the things that makes a big difference.
Right.
We have to be so dependent on someone else to do the work for us.
Yeah. And I think you're also making an important point that is critical for healers and people in any kind of service industry. If you are giving and giving and giving, you do need to do things to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be an empty vessel who has no impact whatsoever, because you're not able to give with fullness and love. When we get to a place of emptiness, we give with resentment and bitterness. And even if we're not conscious of that, it comes through energetically, right? So it's so important to find how you can take those moments and create them for yourself so that you can give more fully.
For sure, for sure. And I work with a lot of healers and people, they are in the massage therapists or the chiropractors, and especially the people, they are hands-on.
Yes.
If you don't have a proper healthy boundaries, and that's something that I also teach my clients, to create the healthy boundaries, that you're not absorbing all this energy.
Yeah.
Then you are absorbing all this energy, and you got the way to clear.
Yes, right.
Then until you get to the point where you're preventing it to happen, and it's possible as well, we gotta keep eye on how are we feeling. Is this my energy? Is that not my energy? If it's not, it gotta go. I don't need it.
That's so important. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that came up. So we're going to pause here for a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to have you share your story of courage. We'll be right back. We are back. Thank you for sticking around. We are getting to the juicy part of the interview. I love to hear people's stories of courage. And before you share yours, Anna, I'll just share with you, if you are a first-time listener or if you show up regularly, I think it's worth saying again and hearing again. It's valuable to hear other people's stories of courage for several reasons. The first one is that courage is contagious, as Brené Brown says. So when we hear someone else's story of courage, it gives us permission to be courageous as well. Another reason is because we might hear ourselves in someone else's story and realize, oh, I went through something similar, but I didn't recognize that I was courageous. And that's a gift you can give yourself. If you know you're a courageous person, you will show up more courageously, and that equals more transformation and better life and feeling happier and more peaceful and more grounded. So it's valuable to hear stories of courage. And then the other reason I love to get guests to share them is because if you are going through something similar and you're just out of ideas, you might get a new one. Oh, that person did that, so maybe I could do that too. And that's lovingly known as the Yahoo theory. If that Yahoo can do it, so can I. I've used the Yahoo theory over and over in my life. So I'm glad that the stories of courage can give people ideas and solutions where they might have thought that there were none. So having said that, Anna, we are all excited to hear your story of courage, because we know it's going to benefit us in so many ways.
Yes, and that's such a beautiful theory. I'm actually in the process of writing my second book that's based on exactly that philosophy that you just described. It's going to be my life story and the lessons that I learned through my life story, as I have a lot of stories of like jumping, like coming from Brazil to America, coming to California, to North Carolina, like closing my business, open again. So many stories. I'm actually compiling all those stories to share with my second book.
Ooh, but I'm getting goosebumps.
Yes, thank you. The story that I would like to share today, that I think it was my inspiration to do what I do today, was when I was in my 20s. I was diagnosed with uterus dysplasia. And that's a pre-cancer diagnosis. For me to be in my 20s in a new country with no family, no support, and having my grandmother die a couple years prior from ovarian cancer, that hit home. That was like fear.
Yeah.
And coming out from the doctor's office, where she told me, if you need to do a biopsy like tomorrow, and you gotta treat that like ASAP, otherwise you're going to spread into your body, and it could be the worst. And not just my emotions fear, but also the medical field fear.
Yes.
And I hear that a lot, unfortunately, from clients, where they just come in this frozen moment where, oh, there is no cure, or there is no way, there is nothing else available because the doctor says so, or because I read that on Google. And for me, in that moment, I left the office crying, but I had to pull from my inside all the courage that I had and all the knowing that I had that if I don't treat the cause, it will come back.
Mm-hmm,
That was
exactly.
something that I asked the doctor, and I say, okay, if we do the treatment that you're suggesting, do you have any guarantee that's never going to happen again? And she's like, no, because we don't know why it happened. Then that was my moment where I determined myself to discover why it was happening, why was my body acting up, why was my body unhealthy, why I was in the point so young having to deal with something so serious. Then that's where my journey started. Then I was already working as a physical therapist assistant at that time. I already had some background of healing. I born as a media, but that's when everything started came together because I had to use every single tool that I had and find many other tools to be able to heal myself. And I was in about 4 to 6 months, I came back to the office and I was 100% clear.
Wow.
She couldn't believe it. She was like, what have you done? Because you never came back. And I was able to clear everything up with natural ways and the power of the mind and the power of my body. Then that was my inspiration to actually write the book that I just published a couple months ago. They're called Ignite Your Inner Healer. That book basically describes some of the tools that I used through that process of healing and be able to cure myself. And what I learned from that experience is our body has so much power.
Yes.
And we don't give that credit enough. And if we just use the proper tools, our body knows exactly what to do.
Yes.
Then that was the story, and that was kind of like the end result. That's still happening because my business is based on that belief and the way I treat clients. Then it doesn't matter how serious the clients come and how long they've been suffering and how chronic the problem is, have cure, not have cure. It doesn't matter what it is. We have the power of change that.
Absolutely. What an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. And it makes me think of a time that I was seeing a 3-in-1 therapist, and she said one sentence that was a complete paradigm shift for me. She said, your body is never against you. It is always for you. And even if it's cancerous or even if it has a chronic issue, no matter what is happening, your body is the messenger. It is the direct connection to spirit. And what it's saying is there's a reason why this happened. And just like you did in your inquiry, you said, why is this happening and how can I resolve it? Because you're right. If you go and get the surgery and you don't do anything on the inside, you have a very good chance of it coming back because you haven't resolved the underlying reason. And so I love that you asked that question. It's such a powerful question. And once we get our body on board, once we know that, well, once we get on board with our body, really, and we understand that it's trying to give us a message for healing, like deep, soulful healing, then we do experience that healing. And then you have written the book on how to practically approach that. So that sounds incredible.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that's so important. Is the body is always sending a message. And instead of us seeing as the body is against us, the moment we start to notice the pain, inflammation, disease, all of those things are red flags because the body a lot of times are whispering to us and we don't listen.
Right.
And then we don't listen, and don't listen. And the body starts screaming. It's like, can you listen now?
Yes.
And that's when we pause. If we start to connect to our body more, we start getting to the point where we hear the whisper before the body is screaming.
Yes.
I always feel like those experiences, like for me personally, it shifted my life. It totally transformed the way I see myself and I see my clients as well.
Right.
I'm very grateful for that problem, even though it wasn't fun. I didn't like the moment that happened, but it was such a lesson for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we shift that perception from a problem to, okay, what is really here for me to learn, the body heals so much faster and we learn so much about the
Yes.
experience. Because if something is not working properly, that's why we get the diagnosis, that's why we have the pain. We just gotta shift the cause, the root problem, instead of just the symptoms.
Yeah, and it sounds like a fundamental shift that we can make in practical terms is, instead of like when something chaotic happens in our lives, whether it's with our health or our relationships or whatever, instead of going, why me? Why me? If we say, why is this happening to serve me? Then we can get a better answer when we ask a better question.
Exactly. Yes.
That is amazing. So I know, Ana, that people are going to want to know more about you and read this book of yours. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, then my website is www.behealthywithana.com. The B is BE, healthy with Ana is ANA.com. That's my website. You can find all the information about me in there. The book you can find on Amazon. It's actually on promotion right now for 99 cents for the Kindle version and $10.99 for the paperback. And the book is designed in a workbook that you can actually go every week to a different chapter and practice, and you can download a PDF journal format, and you can kind of go into the questions and inquiry yourself. Then that's kind of like a nice journey to practice for a while. It's not the kind of book that you're going to sit down and read it.
Yes.
It's the book that you're going to work together. What's nice. You can find the book on Amazon called Ignite Your Inner Healer. And I am giving away the first chapter for free on my website.
Oh, awesome.
Does anybody want to kind of take a little peek to what it's about? You can come to my website and sign up for that. The book is very colorful, very pretty. It's just bringing us to the best we can be.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Ana. That's a really generous gift. So I encourage you listeners, take action on that, because that is truly what self-care is. It's always a form of action, whether it's action with shifting your thoughts or action with your physical body. That is self-care. And that's why it takes courage. So much easier to sit on the couch and zone out. But if we want to live a life where we feel excited to get out of bed every morning, like I literally pump my fist in the air and say, I am so grateful to be alive. And we go to bed at night thinking, oh, that was an exceptional day. That kind of life is possible, and it takes courage and it takes action. And what a better way to go through it than caring for yourself. So Ana, thank you for being a guest. Thank you for sharing your self-care practices and your story of courage. It was magnificent.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you for the work that you do for us as well. It's a beautiful podcast.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm glad people are listening. Yay. Actually, we just reached the podcast just reached 10,000 listens worldwide. So that's pretty exciting. Yay. Thank you for listening, everyone. And it's being listened to in over 30 different countries. So it truly is a global experience. And I just started it because I had a lot to say about self-care, but I'm glad that people are actually listening, and that we're spreading the word that self-care is important. You are so worthwhile. You totally deserve to care for yourself. And I deeply believe that if every woman and man practiced self-care from the inside out, the world would be completely different. We would have deep understanding of each other. We would have peace. We would have self-love, and people would achieve more than they ever thought possible, because it just has to start with caring for yourself. So I'm very grateful that you took time to listen today. Ana, thank you again for being a guest and for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.